Okay, so this is step number 3 of threading your serger. So we've already gone in video 1. We went from our thread spools up through the hooks, down to the tension discs, through the tension discs, often in a tension channel, down into video 2, where we hooked into the lower looper and the upper looper. So we came down to the loopers, hooked onto their little guides to engage the thread into the bottom. Then we went to the swing arms, followed the path to get to the end of the looper, and now we've got 2 loopers going back and forth, creating the horizontal threads in our overlock stitch. However, those threads will not stay. They will fall right off because we're just waving them around in the air right now. But what we want to do is we want to use those 1 or 2 needles at the top to engage those threads with the fabric so that they lay horizontally on the fabric. So those 2 threads, the job of the 2 threads coming from the top is to secure the fabric sides. I'm going to pull out one of my samples of stitching. This time we're going to look at the pink on white. I think it will focus on the pink on white. Let's see how this goes. So what we want to happen is we want our threads, no, we're going to the pink on blue because that's a little bit hard to see, isn't it? So let's go to pink on blue. One which I should know this ahead of time, but there we go. So we have the loopers creating what's on screen, the horizontal thread that's laying on the top, and similarly a horizontal thread laying on the bottom. So on the fabric body, the threads need something to anchor them, and in this case it is this inside thread line of stitching, and this is a 3-thread wide overlock, and the 3rd thread is the needle thread that's poking through the top, catching those loops so that they're horizontal on the fabric. The needle passes through and catches the loops, catches the loops on the underside of the fabric and holds them in place. On the edge of the fabric, the 2 loops are engaging each other to lay linked along the edge of the fabric. But we need to get that thread going through the needle. Now a 4-thread overlock, which I don't think we can focus on, it's too hard to see, has 2 rows of stitching securing those horizontal threads. So 2 needles passing through the fabric to catch the loop 2 times, and it creates it's a secure seam that way. 3-thread is just a nice strong seam. The 4-thread allows for anything that can get through. Anything snaps or breaks, you still have a seam. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to thread our serger needles. So we're going to do the same thing we did before, where we came from the thread spool up through the hooks, down through the securement posts, whatever that happens to be on your machine. Sometimes it's 2 holes and sometimes it's little clips, and lay it into the lay-in tension if you have lay-in tension, or wrap it around the post if you have an older generation machine. Bring it down, and now we're at this point. So I'm going to bring my camera over to that. Okay, so we're going to bring our threads into these 2 securement hooks. And you can do both at the same time if you want. We usually go to the right needle first and then the left needle. And the reason we do that is just for ability to access those needles. Now you see here how you cannot see the needles right now? Well, I like to get rid of my major visual distraction, and so I usually pop my foot off so that I can see my needles, and so my needles are now visible to me, and you can actually see the ends of them right there. Those are my needles. So my thread's going to come down. It's going to, and on our domestic machine, this is where we come down the channel and then go back up over the hook and come back down again. And so you've got the full impact of my visual there. When you're threading your machine, you come off the spool of thread, then you bring it down through a channel, up and around a hook, and then back down to your needle. Well, that's what we're doing on this machine here. So we're going down around this hook, up around this hook, and then down through this needle. And if you look closely, you will see right here there is movement there, and that's creating the slack that the machine needs in order to create the step of thread. So we have a nice little loop of thread that goes underneath so that this looper can poke through. So here we go. So we're going to come down here. So the thread comes down to here and then goes into the eye of the needle. Now some machines will have a threader, and a threader is a nice thing, a nice convenient thing to have on a machine. So it comes down into this area, you swing it down into place just like on your sewing machine threader, bring your thread through and pull it back through again. But this machine happens to not have that. So this machine, we're old school, we're threading that needle. So we're going to poke our thread through the eye of the needle and then bring it around through to the back underneath the foot. Right? So that's what we're doing. Same as in any other sewing machine. But we have a handy dandy tool. I want to talk about the handy dandy tool. So this is a needle threader. I'm going to come around to the big screen here so that we can show that with some nice detail. So this is a needle threader. And where can I get it? I need a nice dark background so that you can see it very well. Here we go. So this is my needle threader. And so it is like a little crown. You can see there's a divot in the top on that side, and when I rotate it, same divot. So it's like a little crown at the top of the needle threader. And the awesome thing about that is that little crown will slide down your needle. You put your thread through let's do it in proper order. You take your thread, you lay it through the groove in the needle threader, so in one direction, so from, let's say, from left to right. Okay, so now it is through my needle threader. Then you take this, keeping your thread horizontal, slide it down your needle, and then let's see if this will show on. It's hard to see on this. So then there we go. As you get to the eye of your needle, there will be a push, and the push is from your pressure of applying it to the needle, and then a little metal bar, which you can't see, so I'm going to see if I can do anything to make you see this. Let's see if you can see it if I do this. See the little metal bar? It pokes through the eye of the needle, pushes the thread through, and now you've got a little loop at the back of your thread, and Bob's your uncle. So you take it, you have your thread across the crown, you take your needle threader and you slide it down the needle till it pokes through the eye, and now you've got a little loop, and you can use your tweezers and grab it. Alternatively, when you bring your thread down, so I'm just going to lay in its tension disc, put it to the hook right here that engages it to the threading channels. Right there. Okay. Bring it through the channels here, down through the hook at the top of the needle like we do with our sewing machine, and then making sure that my end of my thread is nice and trim. I then hold it with my tweezers and poke it through the eye of the needle with everything being well lit so that I can see it. It's through the eye of the needle, and then I pull it through the other side and my machine is threaded. And just make sure I don't hook up on anything. And that's my needle. I do the same thing with my other needle, and now my bottom is threaded. Ta-da! So the next video, when we talk about this, we're going to talk about how the chain is created. So when you're threaded, at this point, no part of this should be interlaced. You've got 4 free flowing threads. 4 free flowing threads. So you can pull them all individually. They all slide through there, especially with the foot up, so that you can, you've got no tension on the tension discs. So once you know that it's all free flowing, you can put your foot back in. Now when I put my foot on, I should show you this. Oh, I was zoomed in the whole time. So when I put my foot on, I slide it. You're not able to see, so let's see how I can do this. I slide it under the foot area, so it slid through here. I'm going to turn sideways because I think you're going to be able to see it much better if I turn sideways. And now if I zoom in, let's see. I'm going to come back to the big screen so I'm not making you all dizzy. I'm going to zoom in, and I think I should talk about this a little bit more because I think we should all know how to do this. Okay, so this is where my foot's coming in. Oh, we have it nice and close. Look at that. So if we look here, I've got my threads flowing under here. Then I've got a hook right here. This is the claw that grabs the foot right there. Okay, so I move it underneath, so it's on top of the threads. I slide it underneath that little pressure bar that keeps everything balanced. I line it up just like that. Make sure you're still seeing everything. Line it up just like that and lower the foot. I'm going to lower the foot in an uncomfortable way here so that you can see. Lower the foot into position just like that. It's clicked on. Now if it hasn't grabbed it on its first test, push that little button on the back so it pops into place, and now the foot should go up and down and my threads are underneath, flowing freely. And that's how I put my foot back on. So now it's officially threaded. At this point, we're not quite ready to sew yet, because I want you to know more about how everything should be laying. And we're going to talk about, in a series of upcoming videos, there's going to be one about the stitch finger. There's going to be one about differential feed. We're going to have one about stitch length. And we're going to talk about when you switch your needles out. And that's going to get us through to the point where I think everybody will be comfortable. They understand how their stitch is being created. So get ready for more videos coming up over the next couple days. The next one's going to be about the stitch finger. Right? So I'll talk to you soon.